Kansei Bourgeoisin. My name is David McLeod, and I had the pleasure to speak with PiQSiQ during their residency at the National Music Center. The video unfortunately had a few technical difficulties, but thankfully we're still able to bring a part of the interview to you. The siblings grew up together in Yellowknife, and they had a very special connection since they were little kids. This is PiQSiQ at the National Music Center. Enjoy.
You've also expanded upon, working with artists, other artists from different countries, like 2018's Altering the Timeline, and you worked with some a Finnish band at that time. And is that something that's important to you as a duo as well, to reach out to other regions of the world, but also being in that northern circle? I remember once and it was called a Caribou Commons to save the caribou years
awesome.
ago. And what they did is they showed the globe, and they said, here's the globe, and the globe was sideways, as we with the United States and Canada centered. And then they had some voices from the north who were like, here's how we look at the world. And then the world was shifted, and you see the northern hemisphere, and then you see the language groups, and then you see how the animals live in each region. And you realize that that we are programmed to look at this world in that way, in the wrong way. So that ties into you reaching out to other artists and musicians. Could you share a bit about that?
Yeah, we loved working with this Sami group, Filda, and they were so fun to work with. And actually, we've been bumping into each other for a while at different festivals on all the world stages, where we seem to end up quite a lot.
Speaking of categories.
So we and those ones are actually always the funnest. Like, it's always the most fun, because everyone is just like, this is so random how we got programmed on this stage all together, and it ends up being like the coolest jams that just has this like amazing kind of free flow feel. And so we had a couple probably like 3 or 4 festivals that we had bumped into each other over a summer or two, and so then when we got to were offered to do collaboration with them, we were like, this is so cool. Like, we already had an idea of who they were, and also to think about another form of Indigenous singing, yoiking, having a very similar history as throat singing in Finland and Sweden and Norway, and being colonized in the same ways. And it's a very well practiced ideology that just is so boring to see it. It's very, very by rote, to see how it affects Indigenous people all over. And lots of affinity with our circumpolar relatives. We've toured in Finland, and we joke it's the longest we've traveled to go somewhere that looks exactly like home. Yes. I'm like, I'm so jet lagged. Like, did we actually leave the Northwest Territories? Like, where?
Yeah, wild.
We went through customs to go to the mosquito-y Northwest Territories again. But yeah, there's such an amazing conversation, not just in talking, but in the histories and people and musical conversations that happen when we get to collaborate. And we're very like, why not? Let's try it out. Let's see what happens. Could be garbage, could be dope.
Could be cool.
Let's go for it. Like, so we're really that's the energy that we like to bring with any collaborator that we do, because you just never know, and we're not control freaks, and we're not trying to like ordain something, because we just like to leave it open. And that's been one of our real gifts musically, to be able to make space for the unknown.
There's a sense of when you see you live that you're getting a performance that's not going to be repeated, especially when you're using the looper, when you're looping your vocals, and then you're looking at each other, then you're layering those vocals. So it never seems like it might be the same. So that kind of lends itself to working with other musicians, because you can I imagine you're able to to work on the spot and be creative.
Yeah, so we perform improvisationally, so that does definitely lend itself to being able to jump into different styles pretty effortlessly. So we really enjoy collaborating with other artists. And yeah, like you said, I think the really cool thing for listeners is that we don't do the same show twice. It really is as the spirit moves you, and we're taking inspiration from any number of things on any day, you know, how we're feeling, what's going on in the world, how the audience vibe feels to us. So yeah, it's very improvised.
And that's what you see within audience members too, because there are, you look around and sometimes you see people so moved to tears.
Mm-hmm.
And and then you ask, that really, really brought on it. So people don't even know why.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that, on the audience reaction to PiQSiQ?
We've noticed a common feedback thread that we get from audiences is that all of our stuff doesn't have lyrics. Like it's lyricless, and we create these very complex and lush and vast sounding compositions very quickly with the looper. We're able to make a lot of cool sounding, dense, layered things, and there's lots of different parts happening. And I think that one of the amazing things about just music in general is that if you're having like a problem that you're trying to figure out with your head, and a brain-centered thing that you're looking at this issue, that can work. But also there's something to be said for how music can kind of unlock that heart center and allow you to look at a situation that you've been kind of banging your head against the wall with, and music cracks us open. It like, that's what happens when you just listen with your heart. And it sounds really cheesy, but when you stop only trying to intellectualize something and just really open up from your heart and sit in that experience. And there's something hardwired in humans also to do this practice communally. There's like great power in sitting down as a collective experience to just like breathe together and experience something all together like this, whether you're in the audience or performing or whatever. That there is for a short period of time, we are this community all together experiencing what can be a pretty profound thing. And I think that us giving space for people to experience our music in whatever way makes sense to them, I think is a large part of some of that feedback that we get, that people are like, that was so moving, because we want to give space to people to come as they are and experience it however they need to. And I think doing that is what a lot of people find really profound about our music.
Yeah, we have had several people comment like, oh, I had this complex situation, I didn't know what I was going to do. And yeah, that's really interesting. Or the writer who hit a wall and just laid down in the grass and was like, I know how I'm going to finish my
Calgary
story.
Folk Fest. We were in Calgary.
Oh, right. That was Calgary. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
And he ended up getting, he messaged us after the festival, and he said, you listening to your set helped cure my writer's block, and I know how to finish my film. P.S. Would you like to do the soundtrack for my film?
Yeah,
and we're
right.
Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You like never know where
Very
these things
fun,
are going to
yeah.
go. And
Very fun.
And that's a project we just finished working on, and like it's going to come out later this year, and we're really proud of it.
Well, and you're it seems like you're risk takers in a sense too, because you're obviously rooted in the traditional Inuit singing, but also contemporizing the music itself and the image as well, because you both, when you look at the some of the promos and the cover photos, it has kind of like I don't know how to describe, like a northern goth vibe kind of thing. And what it was, that's it, because as musicians you have to you have imagery, you have music videos, you have all that kind of thing. How do you work together on that, projecting the image of PiQSiQ?
I just hearing how you described us kind of made me realize that that's sort of how we live, is like we have the traditional value we start with.
Yeah.
And then you're improvising to figure out how it works in this setting, in this age, in this world now. So how we live is sort of how we sing.
And then it just influences our wardrobe and costume choices.
Totally. So we're like, we wake up and it's like traditional values, and then you throw in some Tim Burton, and then you have us. So Danny Elfman.
And your deep cuts. And your
Totally.
deep cuts.
Yeah.
I think that's part of too, that's one of the things that we like about surprising people who might have like a preconceived idea of like, oh, this is what Inuit music should sound like or look like, or this is what Inuit look like. And we're not really interested in like dressing up for people in like looking a certain way or performing music in a certain style. We love sharing and showcasing the obviously the like legit old school traditional stuff as well. But then we also like to surprise people that like this is us interpreting Inuit culture and Inuit music and throat singing in ways that's really relevant and exciting and dynamic for us today. And we're allowed to do that. And that's exciting for us to do. And
because we're living, breathing Inuit today.
Yeah. With all reverence and respect for how learning the foundational traditional things as well.
And that's like a kind of a dual kind of connection, because you're working with mainstream, but then also the community, because sometimes the community is finding that traditional place, and you are there, but you're moving to another place as well at the same time with contemporary and making it your own. Is that sometimes difficult to do in terms of like people that might say, what you're doing here is very different than where it comes from. So is that a challenge at times?
You'd think it would be more of a challenge, but I think we're very, very grateful to have resonated with Inuit across regions, kind of young to old. And I'm very grateful that it is resonating, and that people feel very sort of invested in our art in a way that feels authentic.
Yeah.
Very lucky. I just feel very, very lucky.
And we never claim that what we're doing is like, this is the traditional way of throat singing. And that's not anything that we've ever claimed to do. And I think that just helps with the clarity that people, and especially Inuit, encounter our music. Is, of course, they know that that's not traditional. And
I think we were most nervous about how the Christmas stuff would land, but it was received so well. And over the moon.
We're so very honored that it landed with Inuit the way that it did. And I think that's because it came from us too, being so moved and wrestling with something that's really authentic to us, and that a lot of people share that experience. And I think that's why it happened so well.
Yeah.
There was the group Eulali, the vocal group, when they came out in the early 90s, they became so popular. They've been but what happened was, after that, there was kind of like a few Eulali type groups that kind of started developing after that, at least 2 or 3. So what you're doing, do you see that as kind of like snowballing in terms of like young acts seeing you and going, some kids might say, hey, I want to try that now. Or is that something you've talked about, or
we can only hope that happens.
There's been a few Inuit who are like, hey, I wanted to get a looping pedal, and I'm just like, yeah,
do it. It's fun.
I will nerd out about gear with you. Like, let's talk about it, and here's what we do. And like, if you have questions, like, we're so big on mentorship too. Like, we love teaching. We love teaching stuff about, just like traditional form, but also like, here's how you read a contract, or like, here's how you like develop a press package, or these things that no one really showed us how to do. And we're just like so happy to be like, come in, we'll hold the door, like, keep coming, more. So yeah, we're so stoked if young Inuit are like wanting to come and sing with us, or are developing their own style. We're just like, that's like, that's why it's a huge part of why we love to do what we do, is just to mentor and then just watch little throatlings go and do their own thing. It's so, it's the best. Yeah.
And that tied directly into your relationship when you were kids. I mean, it sounds to me like you're still having fun.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I mean, it's so hard. Why not?
We still
have
fight
fun?
over like petty nonsense sometimes, for sure. And it's funny and it's fun, and we have a really good time. Definitely.
And where are you hoping things go? I mean, because you did the Christmas album, I have to say, there's some online performance of you at the Christchurch Cathedral that you can Google it, and it's phenomenal. Like it's incredible. But where do you hope it goes? Like, you've released 5 albums now?
Maybe.
Can't remember. Yeah, something like that.
That sounds right.
But I can see like the collaboration still happening and the recordings and still going forward. But where does PiQSiQ want to land? Keep going.
I think just like our shows, we're very improvisational in life. So wherever we go next, I think we have to really feel it. So we're working on right now an album that's based on different Inuit legends. And so again, it won't have lyrics, but more interpreting the tone and the feeling of those legends. There's just some beautiful, incredible, dark, scary stories that we loved hearing growing up, and we almost just want to soundtrack them. So totally. We're working on, there's going to also be an art installment that we're creating to go with it. So each song will have a piece of art that goes with it. And I don't know what we're doing with that yet, but we'll see.
Oh, yeah. And that's the interesting part, is discovery is always, I mean, that's the adventurous part of what you do. Is it must be an interesting feeling, not knowing where it's going, but having faith in your connection to those legends and the community.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. And it's a scary way to create, but it's like awesome, and
it's fresh.
It's nothing makes you listen harder than being in that sort of like, ooh, there's a bit of danger in this way of creating that.
It's almost like electric. Like,
and you have to let go of control and not like strangle something to make it sound a certain way. Yeah. There's a real vulnerability in making music like that, and I think we just trust each other so well that we're like, want to do this scary thing together.
Yeah, you gotta let go, let it happen. Yeah.
And you're at National Music Center right now. So can you share a little bit about what your process is?
So we recorded a song just before we came in to talk to you, and we just improvised. So we're trying to recreate our artistic process in the studio. So like a lot of the times our studio performances, they don't have that same on the spot as quick of a build as we would get when we're performing live. So we wanted to see if we could create a bit more of that feel into our studio recordings that you feel in a live performance. So one track down, we'll see how it goes.
Nice.
So many layers.
So many layers. Bless our tech.
And what it's interesting, when you look at the Indigenous music scene, particularly from the with language. Languages are key as well. Is that something that plays a role in your music? Is like you talked about sounds, and what about language?
So should we talk about?
Yeah.
We just finished working on a new album with an amazing guitar player from Inuksuk. His name is Kendrick Bolt, and we've been mentoring him for a while, and we wanted to he'd never record. He's so talented, amazing metal guitar player, like so heavy. And he had never recorded in a studio. He'd played with a small couple iterations of like him and his buddy doing like some stuff in the community for, you know, different community events in Klogloktok, and but so talented, had never been in a studio before, had never worked with like a full, like a band, metal band before. And so we got a grant together, and we helped him with that process, and we brought him down to Vancouver at like an amazing studio. Worked with another one of our longtime collaborators, Ruby Singh, and we put together this band of amazing drummer Kenton Lowen and an amazing bass player Pete Schmidt. And we were like, we're going to put this team together, and we're going to envision this project to do a throat singing metal album.
Inuksuk.
So we did throat singing, Inuksuk, and metal all together, and like it is so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
It's so hard.
It's hard.
And this was one of my first times writing in Inuksuk songwriting. And it was really challenging, but it was so fun. And to really feel like I want to be constantly kind of letting go of the like, oh, I don't know Inuksuk enough to be able to like do that. And I'm like, well, you know lots of Inuksuk, so why not write music of the lot of things that you do know, and you'll learn other stuff along the way. And so we co-wrote a lot of stuff. We worked with, you know, my various aunties and dad and people who were helping me translate and transcribe and pronounce things properly for the newer stuff. And then we recorded in Inuksuk and throat singing and metal, and it was like pretty awesome.
It's really fun.
We're so excited to share it.
About it.
Well, we look forward to hearing all your new music, because I think it's amazing. And I just want to say thank you both for sharing where that music comes from, because I mean it comes from an incredible place. And you mentioned the word authenticity, and that's what PiQSiQ is all about. It's grounded in authenticity, and that's what allows it to stand the way it does. So thank you so much. You know, and if there's a young person, last question, a young person's watching this, and what would you want to share with that young person, particularly if they're living up north?
I just really want the next generation to feel an intense cultural pride. Trauma is not our identity. It's something that happened to us. And I am so excited for the generation coming up and the one after to be able to embody Inuit culture in our new age in a way that's extremely proud, that honors where we came from and is always keeping in mind where we're going. And one of our deepest cultural values is to always plan and prepare for a better future. And so it's always in our guiding light to walk along those lines and to always be thinking about how things translate into a future context. And I have immense faith in our next generation. They have a handle on technology that we don't have, and I don't see that as a liability. I see that as an asset, and I hope that they continue to stitch together their modern experience with our past in a way that is authentic and will carry generations through in the future.
Beautiful answer. Thank you for sharing. Well, we'll leave it at that, but we want to thank you both, Inuksuk Mackay and Tiffany Ayalik, for both of you sharing with us. And we wish PiQSiQ all the best and continued success in your journey ahead, and the amazing sounds and music connections and collaborations that you're doing for now and into the future. Chimigwech.
Thanks, David.
So much, David. Thank you.